Welcome to a Virtually Unbreakable podcast where we inspire you to live happier and more fulfilling lives. My name is Ela and I'm your host. Today, my guest is Pradeep Kumar. Pradeep is a keynote speaker, an author, a scientist, and an educator. Pradeep has graduated from University of Oxford and Harvard University. And throughout his career, he has been involved in building and buying global brands. And the topic of today's discussion is business and mental health. I'm pleased to have you here with me, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Pradeep, so nice to see you here with me today. How are you?
Great, thank you so much. It's great to be here, and thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk about this topic because I think it's very important to many people across the world.
Yes, I agree. And nice to have you here. So maybe we can start. So I've introduced you briefly already, but maybe we can start from the question about your business. So you had, looking at your curriculum or your LinkedIn profile, you had a very good advanced career in biotechnology sector and research.
Mm-hmm.
But now you are a CEO of your own business. What inspired you to start your own company?
Yeah, I think we can get into my past life stories before, but it's always never been the untraditional. It's been an untraditional track in life. So I kind of finished my education and I couldn't have a job opportunity. So I made 272 phone calls. One guy picked up and I went to China and I had a great time in China. I was doing very well. And I got stuck in the pandemic. So I had to pivot my career. And I kind of fell into e-commerce and I realized, hey, there's freedom to the money. Money is actually a very useful tool because it gives you freedom to actually look after the main things in life. So I switched careers. And also, to be very honest with you, Ella, I was 32 when I came back to the UK. And for 8 months, I tried to get the same kind of level VP job and professor job.
Okay.
They're like, no chance, because everyone has to be older. So I said, hey.
Sorry, I wasn't familiar with the fact. So where were you before that?
So I was in China. I was working in China. I was in China in the lockdown, in Suzhou and traveling between Nanjing. It was hard, but it was a fascinating journey, and I'm happy I was in China during COVID breakout because I got introduced to a lot of interesting people that allowed me to change my career.
Fantastic. So you have an extraordinary life story, actually, because you're someone who went from being, I hope you don't mind me mentioning, a teenage gangster, high school dropout, to an award-winning scientist at Harvard in 7 years. And you became a vice president in a biotech company with a revenue of nearly 2 billion. How did you do that? And what was your motivator here? What was at what point did you decide in your head you need to do that switch? Talk to me about that.
So my parents were immigrants from Sri Lanka. We grew up with, very rough council estate. If Americans are watching, it's a bit like as social housing, you call it in the States. So you don't know what you don't know, and you're surrounded by the people who you're surrounded with. So career and university wasn't an option. Didn't know much. Got into a lot of trouble. Luckily, I had weights and weightlifting gave me some discipline. But I got into a serious fight when I was 21. Went into a kind of a small coma. Woke up. I tell people I didn't see God. I didn't see anyone special. I said, what am I doing with my life? My parents risked their lives to come here. I'm not doing much. I need to start switching up, changing everything around. So 21, I applied what they call the Foundation Access course. Polytech University in Westminster gave me a chance, and then the discipline, drive, sheer will. If you had quality, it's just sheer will took over, and I went all out for it. And each step I planned, strategized, and I executed, and I kind of got it.
Wow. What a drive and a resilience, and what an inspiration to so many people, because some of the young people watching this could maybe resonate. You can't choose your family, and you certainly can't choose your living conditions, especially during your young years.
Yes.
We're kind of given certain set of cards, right? And we have to play those cards the best we can. And then obviously some of us are more driven than others to get, let's say, better cards or to improve our life situation. But yeah, to have so much determination at the age of 21 shows you that anything is possible, really.
It is possible, and I tell you, you can't dictate what card life gives you, but you go away and make your own game up. You know,
Yeah,
if the ace or the king is good in normal games, and you're given a 2 or a 3, make your own game up,
yeah,
and go and win your own game. And I tell the students and the mentees that I have, there's only little you can do with your weaknesses, but you got to maximize your genetic potential,
yeah.
because that's the only thing that's going to actually give you advantage anywhere in a competitive sphere. And that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah, that is a very good point, actually. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think many of our listeners don't realize that when they have a certain set of life circumstances that they see and experience every day, they subconsciously allow those circumstances, those people that they meet regularly, the events, the task they complete every day, to play the main role in their head as to this is what I am. And what they forget is their true inner potential. They forget about their dreams very often, because dreams seem to us so often as something that is so far away, that is unattainable, that is, some people may associate it with something that's in our head, right? That's not real. Dream is not real. But actually, if we live our life remembering what our dreams are and who we want to become, and really believing that we can become that anything is possible, and surround ourselves with a couple of, doesn't have to be a crowd or great support network, but a couple of idols or icons who have achieved something extraordinary to drive us through life, that can really build a bridge between our current reality and our future, right?
Yeah.
That can be just enough to make the next step, the next week, and then take the next step, and can just see you through. So yeah, it's a very important point. I'm glad you've mentioned that. Thank you for this. So I wanted to ask you, throughout your extraordinary career and life, you have been working with people, you have been managing people, you have been a lecturer at the university, and you have your mentees. What role has a social network played in your success so far? Especially, I'm interested to know, when things got tough in your life, was there someone you could count on, and what role did they play?
Yeah, so on team management, I think all my success have been based on other people, either giving me opportunities or me picking the right people to surround myself with, right? So the data that comes into you is through your 5 senses, and you got to make sure you're very careful of what surrounds you and who surrounds you, right? And how
Yeah,
you manage them. So that's very important. Always strive to pick the best people around you. Pick the people who are actually better than you. A lot of people, leaders, are egotistical. Pick the people who are better than you, and I always pick people, young people especially, who are better than me at the comparable age, right?
mm-hmm.
You know, and I say this lightheartedly, but also seriously. I've learned something. There's only probably 1% of really serious, driven talent out there for each profession. For those talented people, you give them freedom. right?
Yeah.
But everyone else, you give them an illusion of freedom and watch them carefully, right?
That's super interesting. How do you identify the truly talented one? What
Yeah,
what do you see in their behavior or in their characteristics to be sure that's the one? I should give him more freedom at work.
right. So you can see that very quickly. I was in a CEO board meeting. I was talking to these individuals, and they're like, "Oh, passion, 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 passion." I'm like, "Yes, passion's good, but passion is like this, right?" And in
Mhm.
my life, I've only truly probably seen 2 or 3 people with real passion, because passion for what they do takes a lot of emotional drive. And people say, "Oh, just talent and hard work and rigor," but passion is driven by emotions as well. And
Mm.
keeping that emotion high all the time is really, really hard, right? So
Yeah.
when you see real talent, what they're doing is balancing the passion and also the hard work. But then what they're doing is being very practical as well. So they're going A to B very practically with a lot of passion, and they themselves are developing. And they're also developing everyone around them. And you can see that talent because they're executing, but at the same time, everyone is better around them.
Yeah.
So those are kind of indicators that I say, oh yeah, this person's very good at what they do.
Okay. But what about your support network when you were building your career? So less about the people you worked with and managed, but your friends, your family. What role did they play in your extraordinary journey?
Yeah, my family have been always supportive. To be honest with you, my family are very humble, simple people. I always help them. They always, told me to do what I want to do, but there's nothing that I can go to them for a point of contact or point of network or so forth. Yes, I can talk to them here and there. So what I kind of realized from a young age is that you got to go and network and actually build those people around you
Mhm.
and look up to people, right? I
Yeah.
don't believe you could have, I believe in a lot of mentors and a lot of role models, and it's fluctuating and fluid, right?
Yeah.
There's one set person or one set of books I read. I think you have to get the best of everyone
Yeah.
and then kind of learn from them, then move on and move on and move on, right?
I
Because you
see.
don't want to set
Okay.
one character in. You want the best of everything, right? If it's like a superhero, you want to fly like Superman, you want to be strong like Hulk. You gotta have extra vision like X-Men. So you want everything. So that's what I kind of worked out. So if it's biotech, learn from him. If it's a lawyer, that like learn from him. If it's a mentor in e-commerce, learn
Okay.
from him or her. So that's what I do very well. And I think those are the networks. But for the young people listening, you got to go out and shake hands, and you got to make networks and actually make it work and meet these people and win them over time as well. It won't
And
just
not
happen.
be and not be shy
Oh yeah,
about it, because
don't be shy.
I always say, or I tend to say, if you don't believe in yourself, who else is going to believe in you? How can someone else, apart from your mom or your parents, see that confidence in you? If um, you don't have to strive for extraordinary things in life, but if you just want to become a better version or happier version of yourself, and you're giving yourself some goals, either professional or private goals, it's important to keep that end result at the back of your mind as you live your daily life. So whether that is getting accepted to university or graduating from that university or getting your dream job or a promotion or whatever that is, buying a house, it's important to keep that goal on the back of your head and not let our daily reality to eat into your creative energy, right? And to make you anxious and perhaps depressed in some cases as well, because today young people suffer a lot from anxiety and stress.
Hmm.
Lots of young people in their late 20s, early 30s already suffer from burnout. um, you, as someone who has worked for so many years and have gone up and up and up and being promoted a number of times and was given more and more responsibility, can you tell me, what did you learn about yourself and your own resilience during the time when you were building your career?
A lot, because you know, if we step back, a daily routine for me is wake up, brush my teeth, whatever, and then I do affirmations and mantras. I'm not crazy spiritual, religious, or anything, but I do have 20 minutes where I'm just walking around visualizing. And I say this in, I don't care what people think. I literally live short-term, long-term goals in my head by walking around. If I'm meeting someone, I'm literally shaking people's hands and talking to them, and there's no one in the kitchen, right? Or I'm giving a podcast or something, or I'm accepting something, or I've just created a deal. I'm literally doing that. So visually, it's in me, right? I don't know if this helps in resilience. I'm just saying this is it. And then I go off and I go to the gym. So I run, weightlift, and I started incorporating yoga and Pilates in the last 6 months, right? So all that I think sets my day up very well, very well. It's just a positive boom energies, right? I think. And I've been doing the 15, 20 years. The weightlifting, I didn't even know if this was actually a good thing when I started, but it's an excellent thing now when looking back. I've been doing this for a long time. So I think early morning kind of resilience is always there. So that's a daily basis. Then on a kind of a long-term monthly basis, or yearly basis or career basis, it's just a numbers game. I tell people life is a sales game, a numbers game, and a risk game. So once one rejection comes in, I say, okay, rejection is a misconceived conception. Something's gone wrong. I'm going to change it here, go again. So I've become very immune to rejections. And I think a lot of young people have to understand that you get rejected so many times, and so many people, even loved ones and close ones, think you're cuckoo. You just have to keep going. So if your daily routines are good and you keep that dream in your head and you exercise, I can deal with the stress and anxiety, then have your long-term goals and deal with rejection. I think those two finally balance things out. But then, it's a strange thing I'm going to say. It's like, I have this other saying I say to people is that you got to be a yogi in the journey, right? But then you have to be a Navy SEAL soldier when you execute practically, and everything in between, you got to be Forrest Gump. You got to fail and just keep running, right? Because, and that's that balance you need to have: practicality, being a bit spiritual, dreamy, and also just being stupid and foolish and just getting up and going.
Yeah, but that is super clever approach, really, because what I teach as well in my product, in my business, is that you have to build a balance between your physical fitness, your practical routines, and your spiritual aspect of your life, and a connection with yourself. And I think what loads of people are missing, and more specifically about the last point, is that connection with yourself, is that we are so swamped with social media noise and with other people's approval, especially young people these days. They are so, exposed to the likes, the following, the social media connections, the friendships online, everything happens online. Young people these days very often lack connection with themselves, and they lack this self-acceptance and self-love. So one thing you didn't mention, but I've observed throughout our whole conversation, is that you like and approve of yourself, which is an important aspect to becoming successful in whatever sense successful. And we all have to learn to accept ourselves better for who we are, and not be so self-critical, but develop this kindness and this compassion. And that compassion will help us when we face rejection, when we face difficult, situations in life, adverse events, when a family member dies, or when a girlfriend leaves us or boyfriend leaves us. It's that connection with yourself and the spiritual life that will really help us. But anyway, going back to the point.
On that point, I think it's very important for young people, especially. I realize that self-love and self-esteem is not arrogance. Please,
Oh,
I need to
totally.
tell
Yeah.
the young people, because I think a lot of people say, oh yeah, I'm not arrogant, or I don't want to self-love. No, self-love and self-esteem is critical. When you face those rejections or those low points in life, you got to look in the mirror and say, hey, I done all these awesome things. I'm still here and I'm going
Yeah.
ahead because I'm great. I am great. Just say I'm great. I love myself. I'm going ahead, right? But that's very important, because I think in a world where we keep saying, oh, we got to be calm in ourselves, not reflect too much, and not be arrogant. Arrogance, I believe, is doing something that you don't know and claiming that you can do it, right? And that's kind of confidence, overconfidence, or playing arrogant. That's fine. But confidence, self-esteem, and self-love is totally different. And I think the youth now mix it up, and that kind
Yeah.
of also gives them struggle as well.
But I think it's difficult sometimes to blame them because they only know what their parents teach them.
Yes.
Um, and I am so passionate about what you just said that I've written a book about it. Actually,
Nice.
it's called "Teach Your Kids to Build Positive Self-Image." Um,
Yes.
the positive self-esteem and positive self-image is so crucial for our good mental health that it's something that needs to be taught from young age, and it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with arrogance. It
Yes.
has nothing to do with arrogance. It has everything to do with self-confidence and in seeing the positive aspects in yourself.
Mm.
And that is that factor, like we said earlier, that will keep you going and will help you be resilient when difficult things happen to you. And they will happen to you. So,
Yeah.
as parents, those of us who have children, or perhaps carers, those who look after children, should always remember that positive self-image in a child is something we should teach them. And the best way to teach them that is to model that in our families. So it's gonna be very unlikely to raise a global, let's call it a global leader, the next US president or the next British prime minister, if that person who becomes that in that role has a mother who is very humble and doesn't have any confidence about herself. So our parents need to show us how to become these people. They need to teach us. We learn from them and we store the information they give us in our subconscious mind. And then we live our life believing that that is the template.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes you got to break the template. Sometimes you
yes,
got to break it. And yeah,
yes.
this might sound crazy, but there are times when I've just put a suit. I always try to put a suit on, tie every time, and walk out. Right? Perception is everything.
Mm,
And so, if in terms of physical modeling, I physically modeled myself, right, to wear nice things, go to nice places, not because I'm
mm,
spending crazy money, just to be in the right environment to interact with the right people and have the right mindset.
mm.
And that, even if you're from whatever background, anyone can do, right? And you can just do that. So I'm a big believer. And one of the things I did was, there was a very nice professor at my low tier university. Goes, how are you going to get to Oxford? I said, well, I'm going to take the train from Paddington. So that's what I did, right? Ella, I put a
I
suit
love
on.
the answer.
I put a suit
I
on.
bet I bet he didn't know what to say after that.
He's like, oh, you're one in a million. I put a suit on, and I literally went to Oxford during half terms and stuff, and I just shook hands, went, met the people, understood what they're saying, understood how they're perceiving me. And I did that twice. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. I mean, there's nothing wrong here. I can be here. And then 3 years later, I was there at a PhD level. Then when I was at Oxford, everyone's like, oh, don't go to Harvard. It's like crazy work ethic, American, la, la, la.
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I saved my scholarship money up because we're on scholarships, right? I took
yeah.
a plane to a conference. I just, same thing, nice suit in the environment at Harvard. I was like, oh, I asked questions. I'm like, the science is still the same. They don't work any different.
Yeah.
They're still human. And it's a mental model I fixed in myself. And that's what I keep doing in every profession. I just mentally go places where if I can't do it, I dress a certain way, speak a certain way, and I model my mind a certain way. And I just go and do it.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. How inspirational. I think so. It's, you could say, you could give one comment to that and say it's all up there, right?
It's still up here.
Which is, and what I mean by that is your life becomes what you want it to become.
Absolutely.
If you want to become, you know, an average, I don't know, employee working for someone, having a life that is, you know, not taking too much risk, very stable, maybe a bit boring, it's up to you to create that. And you will create that subconsciously without even realizing. If you aspiring to become someone different, you will go after that dream. And remember that this, Pradeep, you are a perfect example of someone who needs, actually is a proof, that walking proof that we need very little support from others to achieve extraordinary things in life. Extraordinary. But what we do very often is we're looking for excuses why we didn't achieve something. And we very often point fingers at others, very often our parents and our families and where we grew up. And that is our excuse in our head as to why we are where we are. Oh, because of this and that. But that is just an excuse. Don't settle. Don't settle for things that don't make you happy. Go and follow your dreams.
And you know, people say, oh, if you reach a goal or get this possession, you'll be happy. No, actually, I worked out. It's really the pursuit of those goals.
It's the journey.
It's that journey that's making me really happy. Because,
that's right.
You know, and my friend said, you just love going for the impossible. But it's not like I have a crazy dream. I never wanted to do all these things. I just wanted a degree. And then I wanted to discover drug. Then I wanted to do business development corporately. Then I just wanted to learn something to do my own business. And then once I do it and I see a bit of success, then I set the bigger goal and a bigger goal and a bigger goal. But it's not like I just think massive straight away. So yeah, it's that journey that really is the life changer. And if you don't have that kind of goal, if the goal is not hard enough, it also becomes a bit boring and it's like, okay, mundane. So I think that's important as well. And sorry, on a tangent, or because we're talking about mental health as well, something I really want to tell the people watching and kids especially is that I think we have a narrative wrong about sleep. And like Hollywood and Western world thinks that all these geniuses, hard workers sleep 4 hours or 5 hours. I think that's nonsense. I sleep 7 to 8 because I exercise and so forth. I think a lot of people I speak to sleep good hours as well. Or you kind of adjust depending on the day. I think it's very important as well because I cannot see any functioning people that are doing very well sleeping less than 5 or 6 hours. And I think that's very important for mental health. And also, as you go ahead, it's not about the quality, the quantity of work you're doing, it's the quality of choices you make as a manager, right? And if you don't have enough sleep, you're not making better choices. So I think
make
that's
good decisions.
well. Yeah, for mental health and also career as well. I think that's
100%. And well done for mentioning it. You know, stress affects all of us. Stress, when it's not managed in the right way, leads to chronic stress. Chronic stress is burnout. Burnout affects our relationships, our health, our lives every day, very, very often without us realizing. We become the more horrible version of ourselves. And that all stems from poor way to manage stress, but also lack of rest and relax. So the sleep is actually good diet, sleep is something that is fundamental for good mental health. And yes, well done for mentioning it. I want to ask you the last question today. What would be your advice to anyone who is perhaps going through a challenging time right now? Whether a man or a woman, boy or a girl, and perhaps they're at the point in their life where they are feeling a little confused about themselves and what they want to do in life. How should they go about finding their passion? And what advice would you give them in terms of maybe starting their own business as well?
Okay, so if they're in a problem, let's tackle that first, right? I get problems and stress every single day, every hour, right? So I recommend straight away there's two kind of pots, right? Number one, you practically say, what is the dark? I talk about dark desires like they're bad, but what's the desire in you? What do you really want in life? Really want in life? And sometimes it can be materials or whatever. That's fine. Write that down, right? Write it down physically and say, that's the goal, and then write down what you need to do today, even if it's like not getting there or going to a job center, writing a CV or resume. Even if it's like I need to do the shopping, write the to-do list, right? Once that to-do list is done, you have set goals. So like sometimes I say go to the gym, and I love just crossing that thing
Picking
out,
that off,
right?
yeah.
So I say I write big goals, short-term goals, medium goals, and daily goals, right? So I'll write those down so you have a plan of action. And even if it's like make my bed in the morning, right? That's fine.
Yeah.
You do that. And then there's the other side of it where I keep saying, what you think about thinking? Why am I thinking this? And I think critical thinking skills and self-reflection is missing nowadays. So why am I thinking this? What has happened for me to think this? What is the external scenarios? And then I say, hey, I can't control these things. I can only control what's going up here. So let me try to control things on my list and let me hit it, right? So those are the things I do. Practical lists and also self-reflection and critical analysis, saying, I can't control many things. I'm going to control what's in me and control the way I'm thinking. So those are two things that I do. And then we can touch upon the business. If you want to do a business, again, there's a lot of things that you want to do, but I tell them, pull the trigger. Because when you pull the trigger, take the risk, and you dive deep into it, trust me, you will learn to swim. I think most of the time it's paralysis by analysis, particularly if you're educated. It sounds silly. The more educated you get, the more risk averse you get, right?
Affects me every single day.
And it's not a bad thing, by the way.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I get educated. Education very good for kids and so forth. I'm not saying don't get educated, and I'm not saying educate people can't take risk or build businesses. See all these people, but sometimes people think so much into it. I think just be free.
They talk themselves out of it.
Yeah, and trust me, when you're in the deep end or you're in the darkness, you're like, oh, is this it? You find a way, and it's not as bad as it is. Those who leave you, it's happened for a reason. If you're in debt or if you're in hard times, it's fine. The times will come around and you'll be better. I've been there. I've been in trouble. I've been in debt. I've been successful. I've been high, low, lost the business, started a business, lost the career, lost loved ones. We're still here. I think you just have to just keep going and
resilience is key, which is why we're talking to you about this today.
It's just hard to explain. You'll be fine. You'll be okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pradeep. It's been so refreshing talking to you today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
For any of you who are interested in finding out more about Pradeep, I will include the link to his LinkedIn profile and his professional website underneath in the show notes. And I hope to see you all next week on Wednesday. Thank you. Bye.